Welcome everyone to the second race of the championship. We're here in Canada with quite a challenging weather condition, scenery I must say. So looking at the recap of qualifying, Valtteri Bottas, as we remember, he scored quite well in the previous race in Bahrain. He did equally as well as his teammate, taking third place. It'll be interesting to see where he ties in at the end of this race, to see where he ends up in the championship. Valtteri Bottas did outstanding in qualifying, gaining into the top three, and I'm pretty sure taking third place. Now, the Ferraris last race, they weren't as lucky and fortunate as the Mercedes were, and Charles and Sebastian, they're gonna want to know where the weak spots and the strength points are on the circuit, because they need to get it precisely right in order to make up for their mistakes in the last race. Now the Red Bulls, Max Verstappen, he was outstanding in the last race. He came first and scored many points for Red Bull and even got the fastest lap. Can you replicate that in this race? That's something we've got to find out. The racing points. They are really competitive with the AlphaTauri team. We saw that last race. Perez and Gasly fought it out side by side every lap of the way. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in this race today. But that's something we can only find out in the race. So, without further ado, let's get into the race. So here we are, race day, and light rain is actually around and about this track. It'll be very interesting considering this is a very high-speed track. But yeah, round two of this championship, and France next, sorry. France is next, so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, light rain here today, 17.9 degrees. Now, let's talk about this track. It's a very high-speed track, 14 corners, but with rain here today, there won't be as much high speed as we would expect. And 35 laps around this track, which makes it very interesting, giving everyone enough time to make overtakes in the straights, because there's many overtakes. But we will be expecting a safety car actually, considering with wet conditions, overtakes on the straights will make it that bit more difficult. You know, you want to keep the right amount of traction whilst doing sudden moves on the straight. But yeah, looking at today's lineup, let's go ahead and see what the results will look like. But before we get into that, let's just have a look at how the other drivers are doing and what times they got. Right, so in first place, an outstanding lap by Lewis Hamilton. He got a good lap, along with Valtteri Bottas taking second. My apologies, I said third. Max Verstappen taking third. Fourth goes to Albon. Fifth, Stroll. Sixth, Vettel. Perez 7th. Ricardo 8th. 9th, Norris. 10th, Gasly. Sainz 11th. Ocon 12th. Leclerc 13th. Kvyat 14th. Grosjean 15th, 16th. Magnussen, Latifi, Russell, Raikkonen, and Giovinazzi. That's your lineup. Now, let's get into the race and see what today's race has in store for us. 5 lights. And away we go. It seems like a good start from Lewis Hamilton. He gets the jump on Valtteri Bottas. Will he have the advantage into turn 1? But it looks like Pierre Gasly up the inside into turn 1. It looks like a 3-wide overtake into turn 2 as well, going around the outside of maybe 2 cars. But it seems a side by side. Maybe that looks like Sergio Perez. Yeah, that's Sergio Perez. Will he get ahead of Sergio? That's the main question. Side by side, and he gets ahead, but it looks like the two McLarens are looking interested into overtaking there, but it seems Sebastian Vettel on the outside of Daniel Kvyat. There might actually be Charles Leclerc, actually. Yeah, it was Charles. He was having a look at Daniel Kvyat, but Kvyat seems to defend off of him quite well there, but I think we got a slight glimpse of what seemed to be Sergio Perez having a look at Gasly once more. Remember what we said, Racing Point's AlphaTauris are very competitive during these championships. They're really close in performance-wise, and it looks like he's taking a different racing line, and he's defending off Perez actually, so Perez clearly has the better grip out of each corner, and it seems that Gasly's having a look at the Renault of what seems to be Daniel Ricciardo, and Sebastian Vettel ahead of Daniel. So it'll be interesting to see how Sebastian holds up the 2 cars behind, because considering that Ferrari wasn't the best last race, it'll be interesting to see. But Pierre Gasly up the inside into the last 2 corners, the last chicane. Luckily he didn't hit the wall of champions, but Ricciardo falls down a place, and it seems he's being attacked by Sergio Perez from behind. I think that overtake may have slowed him down enough for Sergio Perez to have a look around the inside of turn 1 and the outside of turn 2. But let's have a look at the race start, shall we? Because there was a lot of overtaking and grip going on at the start. So Carlos Sainz, he got a good getaway. He got a good getaway. We could see Gasly got an exceptional start, and Sainz got challenged around the outside by Esteban Ocon. I think Ocon has just that little bit more grip, considering with the Renault engine. Now let's look at Gasly's point of view, because we saw he went for a 3-wide overtake into turn 1. Let's see how he got to that point. So he got a better start, and I think he just mastered the braking point just enough to get on the inside and then the outside of Sergio Perez into turn 2. And I think he must have gotten a good exit there as well, just to manage to get ahead of Sergio at the fine points, and especially through here. You have to be careful through that section of the track. Now looking at Stroll, we saw he was quite close to the Red Bulls up ahead. So Stroll representing Racing Point quite a lot recently, apart from last race. He had retired, but he was exceptionally better than his teammate Sergio Perez. But yeah, we can see Stroll side by side with the Red Bull here. That'll be interesting to see later throughout the race, because if he's able to challenge the Red Bulls, that just proves that he's got the speed to contest for the championship lead. Well, that's something we'll just have to wait and see. But it seems Pierre Gasly's gone up the inside of Sebastian Vettel, but Sebastian Vettel's getting challenged by Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel, he's going to make it challenging for Sebastian. Sebastian's defending as much as he can. Who will come out ahead here? I think it might be Sebastian Vettel. He has the inside line into this corner, but it seems Daniel Ricciardo has the better exit, and I think Daniel Ricciardo should come out ahead, but no. Sebastian Vettel gets the upper hand, and Sebastian Vettel maintains his place for the time being, but that'll be interesting to see how Daniel Ricciardo manages to overtake him onto the next straight, because the next straight is where the overtakes mainly happen, because that's the longest straight on the entire circuit. So for the time being, no DRS is enabled because of the current conditions. So that'll be interesting to see how overtakes will occur around this track. I'm pretty sure Gasly's managed to get a hang of it. He's got his own power usage strategy that he seems to be using, because he's already pulled away from Sebastian Vettel. But yeah, he's pulled away from Sebastian Vettel with ease. Now looking back at the grid, we can see everyone's pretty much equally spaced here. So even with DRS, I think everyone would still maintain spacing. And Daniel Ricciardo actually doesn't seem to have the launch that we would have expected out of each corner. So I don't think we'll be expecting much overtakes from the back row until DRS is enabled, because we're actually getting from our radars there's some dry patches actually coming towards later stages in the race. That'll be interesting to see, because that's where strategy is really important. During the pit stop periods, you need to get that perfectly right, because if you mess up there, you're going to fall all the way down to the back of the grid, and you want to get that right, because we saw last race, as we look at Lando Norris, he got the strategy quite right, and he moved from 14th up to 10th without many overtakes, actually. He only overtook Raikkonen once, but in the end, he came out in 10th and got 1 point from McLaren. Although that's not much, I made it very obvious that it's important to get the right amount of points here in the championship, considering only 5 races. And especially here, you've got lots of opportunities, but this is where you see the car performances a lot much, because the straights really shows your power unit rather than downforce, durability and all that. Of course, durability has a big part to play in here. See how long the engine can last at such high speeds, and how the car can also handle at such high speeds. But yeah, Daniel Kvyat, let's talk about him. He did not have the best race last race. He just had a mechanical issue I think after the pit stop, he just didn't have any power. Must have been something that happened. I guess that ended up leading to his retirement. So he's going to want to gain some points to make up for the loss he made last race. Whereas Gasly, he was doing very well last race. He got the right amount of points, especially considering from the position he started, which I'm pretty sure is P12. Yeah, P12. And he managed to step up and get the right amount of points for AlphaTauri that they needed, considering that Kvyat had retired. Bearing in mind, Kvyat actually did start ahead of Gasly, so that does really show that Gasly has the skill set that everyone expects of him. Now, looking at Gasly, he's done pretty well this race. If we just saw, he's pulled away massively from Sebastian Vettel, because Sebastian Vettel, as we remember, he just got overtaken like it was nothing into the last chicane. So far, no collisions into the wall of champions, which is fortunate for everyone else. But it looks like, actually, Pierre Gasly's getting quite close to Lance Stroll there. Lance Stroll actually hasn't made much gains on Alex Albon ahead, which you would expect, for him to catch up to Alex Albon ahead, because considering the start, he was side by side with the Red Bull for quite a majority of the time during the start, and that normally doesn't happen with a racing point on a Red Bull, because the Red Bull has been proven to be significantly faster. But that's just something we're going to have to find out this race, because if Racing Point is just faster here because they have the Mercedes engine, and Mercedes engine has been proven to have good speed on the straights, that'll prove significant for them, and significant now for Sergio Perez, because Perez, he needs to make some moves quick, because he's been stuck behind the same cars over and over and over again. Actually, I think, for a second I thought Sergio had overtaken Ricciardo, but my mistake, he hasn't actually made a move just yet. Now we're on to lap 7. Tire wear is an interesting one, actually, because most cars are going to be obviously looking for speed around every corner that they can. And it'll just be interesting to see how each team manages to react to the right kind of situations of tire wear. Because I have said this before, strategy is really important considering wet weather and the fact that we're expecting a dry patch within the next few, I'd say minutes, 15 minutes, or 5 minutes, I'm not quite sure, but it'll be very interesting to see, and it will bunch up the pack, no doubt, for sure, because when tire changes occur, there's often I can't find my words here. Everyone just bunches up into the pit lane, and some people get let out earlier than others because they have to wait for every car to pass them in the pit lane. And when that happens, you then go, but then you always find yourself at the back of the grid most of the time. And that'll be interesting to see, and that'll give all the cars at the back a chance to, get ahead of the faster cars. And maybe towards the end, we'll see quite a diverse mix of different teams up at the top steps. And it seems Sebastian Vettel, he's leading an own pack of himself. It seems that the same 3 cars have pulled away from the rest, which includes the 3 that we've seen with Sebastian Vettel, Ricciardo, and Perez. So that'll be interesting to see who comes out on top out of the lot of them. Gasly, he's showing some speed through those last 2 corners. He seems to be doing significantly better than the other cars that we have seen today, especially the Racing Point of Lance Stroll. He had to go around the outside, actually. He had to look there, but he doesn't have the right space to make that move. As we go on board, he has quite a lot of wheel spin on the exit there, meaning it's showing he's quite desperate to make a move. He knows that staying behind a car, that's going to stay the same distance from you if you don't do something about it. That dirty air will just make your tires warmer, and then gets hot, and then that makes it really hard for you to get the right amount of grip, because your grip falls away easier when your tires are a lot hotter. And considering the wheel spin that we just saw from Gasly, he's extra desperate. He needs to get ahead of the 2 of those cars, which is Albon and Stroll. And those two, they're going to try keep him behind. Because Red Bull, they're going to be fighting to keep the top of the Constructors' Championship. Because as we remember, they did a good performance in Bahrain, as I said before. But looking at this race, it seems Mercedes more dominant around here. Like I said, the straight line speed, they just seem to be a lot more dominant here. Gasly gets really close to the back of Lance Stroll. The rear car, it seems... Wait, actually, the flashing light indicates he's actually charging some ERS. So, maybe he's saving it for the straight. But Pierre Gasly up the inside into turn 1, going around the outside of Stroll, taps his front wing a little bit there, but no significant damage. So Pierre Gasly comes out ahead. Lots of wheel spin there, actually. Unfortunate for Stroll. He's going to want to gain that position back a lot faster, but actually safety car has been deployed. Safety car has been deployed, so that actually plays into Stroll's plan as more than we would have thought, because now he's closer to Pierre Gasly. And actually, pit stops were planned for like lap 17 or something like that, from what information that we've gathered. But yeah, so most people are going to be pitting this lap to get the extra grip, because from what we saw, Pierre Gasly has had quite a lot of wheel spin, especially after that overtake on Stroll. So I'm pretty sure we'll be expecting lots of pit stops. And like I said, strategy is key here, and how different teams are going to plan pit stops. Because once you've bunched up to the safety car, and then once everyone's bunched up and then you pit, then you're going to fall all the way to the back. And that's not something you want. You want to do it now, because the average time you lose is 21 seconds during a pit stop without safety car. But with safety car, it's around 17, 16 seconds that you lose. Now, the double stack actually from Mercedes, that's going to make it slower for Valtteri Bottas. He's going to fall behind the two Red Bulls. Will Gasly gain from that? Because, as we know, the two Red Bulls were further back than the Mercedes. Now, from what we saw, Valtteri might actually fall behind the lot. Gasly gets a good pit stop. He still comes out ahead of Stroll, as expected. But the question is, how close will Gasly be at the restart, at the end of the safety car? Because the safety car really, as I've already said, bunches up the pack, and the restart will definitely see how people can react to the right kind of situation, scenario, and whatever. Because once the safety car is gone, everyone's single file, but everyone's just bunched up within 0.5 seconds of each other, unless, you know, someone gets a bad exit, and that holds up the queue further on. But we're getting reports like Kevin Magnussen is the cause for the safety car. It seems he had an engine failure, and that seemed to have just triggered the safety car. I think with the wet conditions, that probably escalated from what would have been a virtual safety car to a safety car, because any slip could cause fatal. You know, if your car slips, you drift, and then you hit a retired car, where marshals are working on getting the car off the track and far away from everyone else as possible. That's probably why safety car is out. But you would think that wouldn't be happening, considering that it's more of a straight line track. But I guess FIA just decided that it's a good idea to have the safety car still going for the time being. But lap 11 now, it's been quite not as interesting as I would have expected for the first 11 laps of the race. But actually, looking at Latifi, he's further up the grid than I expected, so it's quite likely that he hasn't pitted yet. And I would have thought he would have pitted then, because if he doesn't pit now, then he's going to fall right back to the, last point of the grid. And that's where he started, and I don't think that's where he wants to end up again. But it seems Williams has another plan in store. They just want to keep him further up the grid. But I think if we compare his tire grip to everyone else's, from estimation, he's not going to be strong on each exit, entry, or, entries and exits of each corner. He's not going to be strong because the lack of grip just won't help him. Now, if we look at the running order, it's Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, and then Albon. And then it's Gasly, I'm pretty sure, behind in 5th. So Gasly's done a good gain. He's high. This is the highest position he's been. But safety car is now ending. So all the cars need to slow down and let the safety car enter the pits now. So this will be interesting how they bunch up. Latifi, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts once the safety car is fully in and people can start getting underway. Seems Gasly's side by side slightly with Albon, but he's backed off a little bit. So everyone's getting ready for the restart, and I think it's about time. It's lap 12, and safety car is in. It's green flags. Anyone can make a move now. Sergio Perez, will you look for a move on Nicholas Latifi here? I don't think so. It seems there's a bit of action going on up ahead because everyone's just bunched up all of a sudden. So has a car gone off ever so slightly, or has something happened? I'm not quite sure, but safety car is in, green flags, anyone can overtake. Lap 12 of 35 now, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out into the next stages of the race because everyone's bunched up. But people are already pulling away from each other now because Latifi, like I said, grip levels are not going to be on his side, but apparently got a replay of what happened once the safety car had ended. Oh, so wait, Gasly went up the inside of Albon into turn 1 once the safety car had ended, so that's probably why the pack bunched up. It seems that Albon just wasn't expecting it, and it just slowed down and ended up bunching people up and creating a pack. But actually, the cars that didn't pit are now pitting. I actually told you guys already. You needed to pit right there and then once the safety car was announced, and they're falling back all the way to last. And as a matter, yeah, they have fallen all the way back to, the back parts of the grid. So that's not going to be helpful for the. That's not going to be helpful for the two teams of Alfa Romeo and Williams. They're just not going to have a good race they're not going to have a good race this race. But Romain Grosjean, he's going to have to support and carry Haas to the end and hopefully aim for some points. But actually, Carlos Sainz far back in the grid. It seems he's P16. Yeah, P16. And if we remember, Carlos actually ended up ahead of Lance Stroll. No, Ricciardo and Gasly. Sorry, he ended up ahead of Ricciardo and Gasly. And he then took 4th place, but now he's all the way down in P16. I wonder what happened there, because we remember he got a fairly good start, but I think, like I said before, the pit stop period just didn't help in his favor, I'm assuming, because that bunch up, like I said, you're going to end up letting people pass you in the pits, because an unsafe release will end up causing a penalty. So it's better falling back to P16 than taking a penalty and still ending up in P16. So I guess McLaren took the safe way, and as usual, would take the safe way and didn't risk it. So I guess that's unfortunate for McLaren because they had a good race last race. They had a good result last race. So unfortunate for them, but performance-wise with teams, I've got to say that Racing Point are doing fairly decent. They're actually quite close together. If we look closely, they're actually quite close together. I think that's Stroll in P6, or yeah, P6. Actually, I'm not quite sure. If we look at our grid lineup, I'm pretty sure he's in P6. So with Perez in P6 and Stroll in what seems to be Stroll in P6. Stroll's in P6. Sorry. The two racing points seem so similar. And Perez, that means he must be in P8. I'm pretty sure he's 2 places behind his teammate. So we'll just have to have a closer look into that later in the race, because at the end we'll just get a clear analysis of where everyone finished. But looking at Gasly, he's got a comfortable lead ahead of Albon. As we remember, he overtook him as soon as safety car had ended. But where Gasly will end up, that's a good question and good thing for people to dwell on. Sorry for the constant camera change. We got some technical difficulties with the rain and everything. The camera changes just aren't on point as we ideally wanted them at the start of this race. But Yeah, now looking at Kvyat, he's holding off of what seems to be Charles Leclerc. Yeah, Charles, we remember, had an engine issue. He recovered as much as he possibly could, but as we remember, he only managed to get P11, and Sebastian Vettel ended up behind him in the end. So that was not fortunate for Ferrari, but I think they'll be aiming for some more points today. So good luck to Ferrari, and Racing Point, like I said, they're going to be quite competitive, considering that they're quite good on the straights, and like I've said multiple times, and I cannot say it enough, straights and power on the straights is very important, because if you don't have power on the straights, you're going to fall behind significantly and get the short end of the straw. So they're going to want to see how they can improve on the corners as much as the straights, because there are more teams that are better aerodynamically wise. Aerodynamically, sorry, I don't know why I did that. But aerodynamically, there are some teams that are better, and other teams that aren't as good power with their power unit. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how Racing Point ends up. But like I've said multiple times, everyone seems to maintain the same gap over and over each lap at a time. Lap 16, not much action has actually happened yet, so it'll be interesting to see what action does happen when the dry patch is coming, because I'm pretty sure we're expecting a dry patch within 5 minutes. So we will be expecting a dry patch around lap 19, 20. So hopefully that happens faster than we hope, because if that happens faster, more people bunch up, like I've said multiple times, for a dry compound tire, because if it's dry on the track and you're still not out on inters, your tires are going to burn up faster, you're going to have less grip, and then you're going to lose time and end up falling further back after the pit stops. But Gasly's actually closed in on Valtteri Bottas quite fast, I must say, considering the amounts of laps that it has been. And an AlphaTauri getting close to a Mercedes like that is quite interesting. Honda Power, again, it seemed Honda Power has shown pretty strong, so maybe they've improved after last season, considering that Red Bull didn't get the eye-catching performances they wanted last year. So maybe Honda improves their power unit to the point where they just have more power, and they fitted it onto both the AlphaTauri. But Gasly, we just saw, got a bit of wheel spin there, so he's going to fall behind a bit more than he would have thought or hoped, as a matter of fact. But yeah, lap 17, soon to be lap 18. Mercedes are doing quite well this race, I must say, and Verstappen, I think the whole fact that Mercedes having the better straight line speed and everyone maintaining the same gap, because he doesn't have DRS, he's going to have to reserve his power and fuel. Like, it's very delicate piece of artwork, because energy and fuel is really important around here, considering there's no DRS for the time being. So during rainy conditions and wet conditions, you need to balance the amount of energy that you use from your ERS system and your fuel. So there's 3 fuel mixes for those who don't know. There's rich, standard, and lean. So lean mix is where you save fuel but your car is slower. Standard is where you save and also use equally whilst maintaining the same speed over and over and over. Rich mix is where you go faster but you use more of your fuel, and you need to use that fairly carefully, because if you don't use it right, you'll end up with not enough fuel to finish the race. And I guess that's what every team's telling their drivers right now, because everyone's just getting desperate. And I think Daniel Ricciardo's falling a bit behind and is getting quite close to Sergio Perez behind. And I think Sergio, he knows that he's getting close, but he doesn't know how close he can get by the end of this wet stage of the race. Lap 19 now, so we should be expecting a dry patch any time now. The rain should stop fairly soon. Not quite sure when, but yeah, fairly soon, within I'd say within 3 laps we should expect dry patch coming on fairly quick. But looking at the front wing point of view, oh sorry, technical difficulties again actually. Not sure what's going on down there, but yeah, Lando Norris, if we remember, he did fairly decent last race. As I said before, he gained from P14 to P10, although that might not be much, considering that he was stuck behind for multiple laps. It took a lot of strength and skill to get to the position where he ended up, which was P10. And yeah, I think that Lando Norris, he's gonna want to represent for McLaren, considering that Carlos is all the way down in P16, and with him all the way down in P16, that's not gonna help. I mean, he may have gained a bit. We haven't really gotten much feed on him since you know, we saw that he was in P16, but we haven't gotten much feed since then. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see where Carlos has ended up for McLaren, because McLaren haven't had the best race from what it seems this race. They haven't had much luck recently, especially during qualifying. The wet conditions weren't actually that expected for McLaren. So McLaren, I'd say they responded in more of a panic than they would have wanted. So they last minute responded to when they could, and as we remember, it was heavier conditions. But actually, we're getting a replay of what happened, because I'm pretty sure Pierre Gasly ended up ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and Pierre Gasly made a move up the inside of Valtteri Bottas. So the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly is now into 3rd place, and that's quite interesting to see there. So we got some slight feedback issues, so it seems that Valtteri's car fast forward a bit. That's very interesting. So like I said, the rain is not exactly helping our feed today. We had a bit of fast forwarding issue there, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. But yeah, lap 21, the track is significantly drier now. I think it is very much time for dry tires. It's, I think, about that point. And Verstappen, he's pulling away that little bit more because he hasn't been fighting Bottas over and over again. And I think he saved enough energy to pull away and catch up to Lewis. Because Lewis, if he gets the fastest lap, he'll equal the amount of points that Verstappen has. If Verstappen doesn't score lower than 3rd. So if Verstappen gets 3rd or lower, he won't have the lead anymore, and Lewis will end up having the lead, which won't exactly be interesting for the championship. But if Verstappen finishes in 2nd or even 1st, he'll have a significant lead, and Hamilton, he's going to want to fight even more for the next season if he ends up losing. But it seems it's time for pit stops. So all the cars should be heading in. They'll be double stacking, and that won't help Valtteri Bottas. But I think, considering that Lewis was far more ahead. Oh wait, no, they have a slow stop because they had just taken off Lewis's tires, and Gasly gets a fairly decent stop from what I'm seeing. And yeah, Gasly got a better stop than Bottas. But now it's into dry conditions. It's less about the skill and more about the car performance and the ability the car has to perform in dry conditions. Because I forgot to mention this during the wet stages. During the wet conditions, it really brings out the skill in each driver. So we've just seen that Gasly has good skill, but considering his intermediate conditions, it was a bit of a balance of car performance and driver skill. So, but now we're into dry conditions. It's more about the car's ability now. So we'll be expecting the Red Bulls to pull away and Bottas to maybe take back his 3rd place. And Gasly's gonna really want 3rd, because 15 points goes to 3rd place if you didn't know. And taking 15 points away from this race, that'll help AlphaTauri a lot to get actually third place in the constructors. If we look at our graphs right here, AlphaTauri can get third place if Gasly finishes in third, where he is right now. And also, I'm pretty sure we're looking at a possible tie in the championship between Verstappen and Hamilton in the championship. And when it comes down to the next race, that'll be interesting to see who comes out ahead, because it's been very well known for Mercedes to always come out on top during in France. But yeah, we'll just have to wait to the end of this race. But looking at Sainz, I actually didn't get to see what position he is. I'm gonna try to look at our feed, but I don't have much information on him. That seems to be Lando Norris. He's quite close to Sergio Perez behind. Sergio, he's desperate for points now. And also Lando as well, because he knows that his teammate's behind, out of the points, far from actually gaining any points, as a matter of fact. So Lando's more desperate than Sergio is, but that doesn't change their efforts in order to get enough points for, to take lead in the Constructors' Championship. Although, you know, they're less likely to win, considering they haven't shown that they are actually Constructor champions, apart from McLaren, which was a very, very long time ago. But if we're looking at the hybrid era, McLaren, they've had a very long way to come from the bottom all the way to the top. Because if we remember, 2017 and 18 was not their strong year. They just didn't have the right performance as they would have hoped for. And 2019 was their golden year to return up to where they want to be. Or higher even. Higher than they are currently. But looking at Sergio Perez, he's currently holding P10. Further back than he would have wanted. Like I've said before, strategy, really important. Really important around here. And I think Racing Point just didn't have the luck they would have wanted. So with Sergio holding P10, that just doesn't help him at all. And remember, actually, DRS is available, so we should be seeing more overtakes around on track, because DRS is enabled, and more people are holding a gap. And speaking of gaps, it looks like Valtteri Bottas is really close behind Pierre Gasly on the straight. Gasly's getting quite defensive. We see he's taking an alternative line. And Valtteri Bottas goes for a move, but he gets blocked off by Pierre Gasly. And Valtteri Bottas ends up getting a bit slow on the exit of the chicane. And the Wall of Champions, luckily, wasn't touched by any of the two drivers. But that was really close. And that could have ended up with an accident there. So FIA might be looking into that. Gasly's been proven to get quite defensive when it comes to his positions. As we remember last race, he got really defensive with the Racing Point of Sergio Perez, because he always pushed him to the wall, and he actually ended up shoving him into a meter board. And as we all know, that could damage your front wing, but luckily it didn't damage his front wing. Luckily for him. But yeah, FIA did come to the decision that it was just a warning. So if Gasly's not careful, he will get penalized soon, because he's had multiple warnings about his race behavior. And if he doesn't improve on it soon, he's going to get a penalty and eventually get a grid penalty because of he's going to end up getting a grid penalty, basically. So what if you guys don't know what a grid penalty is? If you get a penalty at the end of a race, the following race weekend, you will get either a 5th place or a 10th place grid drop. And that doesn't help you, because you need to work extra hard to gain back the positions that you would have wanted to have at the start of the race, considering that you wouldn't have gotten a penalty at the end of qualifying. But now if we look onto Carlos Sainz once more, he's stuck behind the Williams of what seemed to be George Russell. But Lando Norris, side by side, with Sergio Perez. Perez looks like he's going for a move on Lando. He's been fed up and been stuck behind, but it looks like he got held up behind, and he doesn't look like he's going to fight back much more, because he's going to have to defend off of Esteban Ocon, who's desperate for a position change here, because he's been stuck behind continuously for a long time. Sorry, guys. All that chatter got my throat quite itchy, so I might cough a little bit during this race. But my word, that was close. And by the way, I do not have the 19. Before you guys start coming to assumptions, but Esteban Ocon, he's out of the. I think he is within the 1 second gap, but it seems he's fallen behind away from Sergio Perez. But Perez got him quite close on that straight there. Actually, he's got him really close. Now Perez, because he has that Mercedes engine, he has that extra. He has that performance boost, and with that performance boost, he's better on the straights. And there is around 4 straights, 3 straights where he can catch up to Lando up ahead. But we'll get back to that later once we have a look at the situation that Pierre Gasly's in. But actually, he's been overtaken by Bottas, it seems. So Gasly's fallen all the way behind Bottas, and it seems Bottas is pulling away. Like I said, Mercedes engine is the superior engine supplier here, and I think that's worked out into Bottas's benefit, because with Bottas, he's shown that he's got good straight line speed. But Gasly, if you saw, you guys just saw that he got an exceptional exit off of the chicane there, and no flaws whatsoever. And he's right behind Bottas now. He's right behind him, and he's going to look for a move onto the next straight, because he'll have DRS. He's most likely saved all the energy possible. Actually, for those who don't know, there is a DRS straight coming up right about now. After this corner, there's actually a DRS straight here. As you can see, yep, he's enabled DRS. But the question is, will he use his energy up in order to get close enough for the next DRS? Because for those who don't know, you have to be within 1 second of the car ahead in order for DRS to be activated, or for you to have the ability to activate DRS. But if we look closely here, it seems that Gasly's just within the 1 second gap, and I think that's why he'll be using as much energy as possible to stay within the 1 second gap. And I think this is where this corner comes into play, and it's really important for him. He gets right behind Valtteri Bottas. He's close enough to make a move. He's going around the outside of Valtteri Bottas. He's going to go into the inside of turn 1 on Valtteri Bottas. He gets the upper hand. He takes back 3rd place. Now he just needs to defend it off of the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri, he's going to try his very hardest to get that position back. It didn't look like it was really difficult for him to take 3rd place back, considering he had grown quite a large gap. And it seems his weak spot is that last chicane. And I think if he doesn't improve on that part of the track, then Gasly's just gonna keep that position till the end of the race. Because lap 29 of 35 laps, with 35 laps in this race, I don't think Gasly will have the ability to hold off Valtteri to the end, because Valtteri's straight line speed is pretty significant and superior. Like I said, Mercedes is always superior on the straights, so we should see big performance difference on the straights. But as I've said before, that chicane is Gasly's strong point. And we've just seen Gasly's pulled away from Valtteri faster than I actually would have thought. But it seems Valtteri Bottas, he gained quite close into the corners area of the track. But on board with Daniel Ricciardo, he's quite close to Lance Stroll up ahead. So it's very unlikely he'll make a move, considering that Racing Point has managed to contend with the actual Red Bulls themselves. So it'll be interesting to see. Valtteri Bottas looking again for another move. It's getting quite close now. It'll be interesting to see how who comes out on top at the end of the race. Valtteri, he's finding every point possible to make a move. Gasly's trying to push him out wide so he can keep that position of his. He's desperate to keep third place and desperate for those extra 15 points to go towards AlphaTauri. 5 laps remaining, guys. 5 more laps remaining of this Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas doesn't get the upper hand of that corner. Like I said, Gasly, he always gets the upper hand of that corner, however. He always gets the upper hand. And that just leaves him enough space to... for Valtteri not to be... that just leaves enough space for Valtteri to not be able to make a move on the straights there. So, yeah, I think that's a smart move from Gasly. To just give him enough space to, equalize distance until he gets to turn 1. But I think as we've just seen, and as I've just said, Mercedes engine faster on the straights. So he always manages to stay ahead of Valtteri into turn 1 and turn 2. And this is a straight that is really important for Valtteri, because Valtteri can really gain through that straight and this straight as well, because he can use his energy that he's probably saved up whilst he was ahead of Gasly. But now, around this stage of the race, he's gonna want to use all of his energy, everything that he has in the car, to catch up. Now let's see if he comes out on top, but it seems he's not close enough to make a move on Gasly, so Gasly will get the upper hand of this corner, and I think Gasly will be a lot further ahead than he would have expected. But some wheel spin there, so he's gonna lose some time to Valtteri Bottas behind. Valtteri's gonna gain off of that significantly, because that wheel spin really does slow you down, and it shows that he's not got much tire grip in his rear. Or that was just simply him accelerating too early. Because, yeah, I've said it before. It just shows how desperate he is to get that third place and those extra 15 points. But that was also seen before in the early stages of the race. Because if we remember, he started in 10th this race. He started in 10th place. So that's pretty impressive for an AlphaTauri to start from 10th and all the way into 3rd. Valtteri Bottas going for the outside, side by side, into the hairpin, and Pierre Gasly pushes him wide, locks up in the process. But that's good defense mechanism from Pierre Gasly. But side by side onto the straight. They're going to be side by side into the chicane possibly. But no, Gasly actually has more speed on the straight. And he keeps ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Lap 33 of 35. There's 3 laps remaining of this Grand Prix. Will Valtteri Bottas go for a move into turn 1 like Valtteri did? But he nearly loses the car in the straight. He nearly loses the rear. And that was really close. Valtteri Bottas nearly lost out there and nearly crashed his car. That would have promoted quite a few cars actually in the back of the grid. But holy, that was really close. I don't think Valtteri will want to pull a move like that again. So, yeah, hopefully he doesn't pull that kind of move anymore, because he like I said, nearly crashed. And if he crashed there, that would be devastating for Mercedes, because they're going to lose some crucial points in the constructors. Now, looking back at I guess you could call it a fight between Ricciardo and Stroll. Ricciardo, I think I've made it quite clear, he just doesn't have the same straight line speed as the Racing Point does. So, I mean, he's gotten quite close around this point, but I'm not sure it's enough for, I don't think it's enough for him to make a move and overtake Stroll for 5th. I'm pretty sure it's for 5th place, or 6th. No, it's for 6th place, so I'm not sure if he'll make the move in time by the end of the race, because it's lap 34 now. But now looking at the 2 contenders for 3rd place, this has been one long and extensive fight today. Valtteri Bottas, he's been doing his absolute best to regain 3rd place. Mercedes must be motivating Valtteri in some way for him to still keep fighting against Pierre Gasly. And may I just say, Pierre Gasly, an exceptional drive he's done today, considering he started from 10th to 3rd. I've said this so many times, that's how impressive it is. in an AlphaTauri, and my word, we haven't seen a performance like this in a very long time, since Brazil 2019, actually, where he got 3rd place at Brazil. So, here we are, on to the next straight. This is the most important part for Valtteri Bottas. It is the final lap now. So, Valtteri Bottas, he's going to need to make every corner count. He needs to get the perfect exit for each one, hoping that Pierre Gasly will make a mistake. So he's going to apply as much pressure as possible to Gasly, because he knows Gasly will crack under pressure, depending on what kind of pressure is applied. Now, into turn 1, does he get a good exit? Yeah, they stay fairly equal with the gap. Gasly gets a bit of, like, a very small amount of wheel spin there if we're going on board with Valtteri Bottas. And Valtteri, he has the upper hand, like I said, on the straight. Gasly goes slightly wide there, so that's not great. He goes wide into that corner as well. Do these mistakes seem, and he gets a bit of wheel spin too. He's cracking under the pressure because it's the final lap. He knows he needs to defend a lot. He's pushing Valtteri up against the wall. He's getting really, really desperate. He's getting nervous as well. This is going to play into Valtteri's advantage. He touches the grass as well. This is getting really close. Gasly, he's doing his very best to defend off of Valtteri Bottas, and it's getting really, really, really close. But it seems Valtteri Bottas, he's going to get really close. Congratulations to Lewis Hamilton. He has won the Grand Prix. But the main action's right here between Valtteri Bottas and Pierre Gasly. Who comes out ahead of this corner? I think we all know who comes out ahead of that corner. Pierre Gasly comes home to take 3rd place for AlphaTauri. And oh my word, what a race that has been, ladies and gentlemen. Our winner, Lewis Hamilton, for starters. What a race. No doubt Pierre Gasly is the driver of the day. No doubt. That was an exceptional drive from Pierre Gasly. And it seems Toto Wolff very happy with Mercedes' performance today. He's probably not as happy with Valtteri's performance, but he knows that the efforts that Valtteri did and the extent he went to try and make a move, that he knows that he's done his absolute best. Lando Norris, I think Lando, he tried his very best in this race, taking the 9th. I think 9th was the best he could do this race. But congratulations to the top 3 of Lewis, Verstappen and Gasly. But Lewis Hamilton takes the win. Let's see how this plays out into the championship for next race. But in the meantime, let's let the drivers enjoy the podium. Now, let's look at the driver standings. Lewis Hamilton has tied with Max Verstappen for the lead, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out for a little bit of tiebreaker into the 3rd race. Not exactly a championship deciding tiebreaker, but looking at Valtteri Bottas and Gasly, Gasly's getting close to Valtteri in the championship here, holding 4th place and has gained on Alex Albon and Daniel Ricciardo, it seems. And he gained on Albon and Sainz. That performance wasn't what he wanted, and he's falling down all the way to 7th. Ricciardo's gained from that, and along with Stroll and Vettel. So we remember Vettel didn't have a good performance, and he's going to gain himself 4 points this race. So that was an exceptional drive, and looking at the people who didn't score points, not ideally what they would have wanted. Kvyat, he's yet to score points for AlphaTauri. I guess strategy wasn't on his side today, but maybe better luck next time. Now, if we look at the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes, they have now got the lead of the constructors, so I think they have better foundation with team positioning in this race. Red Bull falling behind into 2nd, 5-point difference. AlphaTauri, like I said, gets 3rd place in the championship, overtaking Renault and McLaren. Now, if we look at the end performance, Lewis, Max, and Gasly take the top 3, and I'll let you guys observe the rest of the grid and the polling order. Sergio Perez, not the performance he wanted, started 7th, finished 10th. Lando's kept the same position, not what he would have wanted, but it's going to have to do with what he's, down to 14th. But if we remember, he was 16th at this, around the earlier stages of the race after the first pit stop stages. But that was a very good race, and I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.